Today on the Nerdy Gritty, silent protagonists. Yes or no?
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I'm Fox.
My coffee is hot.
What's your name, though?
That's my name.
Oh,
yeah.
We're now...
It's German.
My coffee is hot and Fox play.
I'm Des.
Your title, but it works best.
If you're randomly listening to episode 60...
Nope, this is 49.
What, at 49?
I think.
All right. Well,
No. Nope. I've got things. It's spooky season.
It is spooky
It is
season.
spooky season. And it's simultaneously one of my favorite seasons and one of my worst. My least favorite
We talked
seasons.
about it last week, but you had trouble sleeping after we played Darkwood.
And I keep doing it to myself, Dad.
What did you do?
I watched a movie.
What did you watch, you idiot?
It's called Gerald's Game.
Never even heard of this.
It's a Stephen King adaptation about a older married couple, like middle-aged married couple.
I'm trying to make a joke about a famous Gerald in the game he would play, but I can't think of a
Gerald
single...
Ford? Come on, man.
What game would Gerald Ford play?
Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. That's
He
fair.
was in the third one. That was the main protagonist. No, Gerald's Game, Stephen King adaptation. The premise is a middle-aged married couple are taking a trip for the weekend to like their lake house out, basically far away from it, just to like rekindle their romance, essentially.
Okay, so not as old as I was thinking.
No, middle-aged.
Okay.
Yeah, 40s, maybe early 50s. I don't know. 40s.
You at first you said an older couple,
90 years old.
and they're gonna go rekindle that romance. If you know what I mean.
It's just horrible to watch.
Oh, nothing in here but these
horrific.
two elephant skin rugs. Oh,
So essentially, that's the premise. That's the beginning. The premise of the horror aspect is that he handcuffs her to the bed, and then a few things happen, and then he has a heart attack and dies.
that's it.
Yes.
And now she's handcuffed to
Now
a bed
she's
in the middle of
handcuffed
nowhere.
to a bed on her own, half a mile away from anybody who could ever hear her.
Interesting.
There's a lot more to it, including some very creepy images of the Moonlight Man.
Okay, so there is some sort of
There
supernatural.
are. I can't say anything without spoiling.
Okay.
But there is more than just the survival aspect.
Okay.
You delved. It was so good. Like you
All
learn
right.
about her and her past. She starts hallucinating. Like it was really cool. Like two parts of her brain, her husband and her, basically start talking to her. One's
Weird.
like, you can't do anything right. You're stupid. Why'd you get yourself in this? And the other half is, okay, you know what you need to do.
Right.
Basically, just trying to figure. Very, very, very good. Very good movie.
So,
But it creeped me
with
out.
things like this. Real talk. I'll go read a synopsis of it
Yeah.
because I'm not gonna watch it.
Yeah, it was.
It
most
sounds
of it,
really good, and I'm very interested. I'm not gonna watch it.
Most of it is not keep you up at night creepy. Most
Okay.
of it is just there are a couple images that stick out in my brain that make it hard for me to sleep.
Yeah.
And it's very good.
I get that.
But it's why it's like I love horror because it does it has an interesting thing to do where it like delves deep into this part of our psychological
Into the
makeup.
details of pop culture.
Right, it delves deep
Yeah.
into the details. Like I just find it very interesting.
No,
the art of horror.
I wholeheartly agree with you. Like, I think the art of horror is really important, and fear. I mean, that could even be a topic for us, like the importance of fear in art and in
Sure.
gaming and things like that.
Yeah.
But I know it personally impacts me,
Yep.
and for a guy who already has a sleep disorder with sleep apnea, I don't need to add
That's
to
fair.
that.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
need
yeah.
anything else.
That
you know?
makes sense. But yeah, this creeped me out pretty bad for a couple
Yeah.
nights now. I've had a hard time. I just imagine
Man.
things.
Well, on to my intro, the
Oh,
more important one.
your
I'll just
dumb
delete
one.
these first 4 minutes.
That's fine.
Remember when I sang a funeral song for Movie Pass?
Oh yes,
Do you remember what song it was?
it was Uptown Girl.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
It was Oh Danny Boy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I would sing it now, but it's even more poignant because Danny Rand no longer has a television show.
Oh, I see.
Danny boy.
They've canceled.
The pipes are calling.
The pipes in this case are Marvel.
Yes.
Marvel executives.
Oh, Danny boy, Marvel
Kevin Feige
executives
is
are
calling.
It's actually Netflix. Netflix executives are calling.
Yep,
Your show was bad, and nobody gave a crap.
Yeah, what I've seen is that it's canceled. The character's not like obviously the character might show up somewhere.
Right,
but
he'll be around.
Obviously,
The
very
show's not good.
Smart move.
Yes.
Yeah, just stop.
Which is so weird to me because I feel like the character of Danny Rand has so much
Yeah,
opportunity.
they did a bad
for
job
a good show.
using the character.
Which is crazy because Jeff Loeb was the executive director, and Jeff Loeb is incredible. He wrote Long Halloween.
Jeff Loeb is iconic.
He wrote Hush.
Yeah.
Like Jeff Loeb is phenomenal.
Yeah,
100%. So good. But this show was just boring at times. For a show about a ninja who can blow things up with his hand or whatever.
The problem was
punch things really hard with his hand.
He really wasn't a ninja who punched things with his magical
He was
hand.
a whiny man-child.
Yeah, there was no dragon that he punched in the heart. That was just like a thing that happened, and that should have been the other three are far more grounded than this one should have been.
4 if you include Punisher.
Oh right, Punisher. That's
Right.
even more so. This one should have been like they've established that these are grounded in reality.
Right.
This one should have taken it off the rails a little bit because they would have had the opportunity.
Well,
people
and I
would have
feel like
accepted
the reliance on Iron Fist is what hurt Defenders so much as well.
Yeah,
like
he was a main the character,
right? And then they went and they into the dragon's body, and they were harvesting dragon bones and things like, and it was just so ridiculous to see. Hey, here's like rape victim Jessica Jones, and here's hero of Harlem. Luke Cage, and here's a dragon.
Of course, everything can be written well. I still firmly believe that they could have had the same plot for Defenders, and it worked, but that character didn't work. Like, just because Infinity War was so ridiculous and had all these crazy, let's go to space, let's throw a moon at people.
Yeah,
doesn't mean you didn't care about what was happening to like Tony Stark.
Yeah,
or because those characters you like and you root for.
Yeah,
Danny Rand is the opposite.
In which there were a bunch of like planets that were focused on, and aliens that were dimensionally teleported to Earth to fight a war, and a dwarf that is also a giant or whatever else. Like all these things. The best part to me, like the part that stuck with me, was Peter Parker saying, "I don't want to go, Mr.
I don't
Stark.
want to go." And
and
then recognizing the ending of this movie calls back to the beginning of Tony Stark talking about wanting a child. And you're like, that's the core of this, not the fact that Thanos is a big, powerful meanie pan.
Yeah,
the core is these characters you care about.
But you never did that with
with
other
Iron
than
Fist.
Colleen Wigg, I liked a lot.
She's great.
She is a
right.
great character.
She should have been the Iron Fist.
You know what might have made it better if they tried? They could have tried making Danny Rand a silent protagonist.
That wouldn't have helped at all.
That wouldn't have helped in any way, shape, or form.
But I guess maybe.
But it does help us get down to the nerdy gritty.
To the nerdy gritty, because that's what we want to talk about today. Des and I have talked about this in the past every once in a while. Just the idea of silent protagonists, which mainly, of course, shows up in video games.
Right.
Movies, not so often. But I feel like you could see it somewhere. I mean, Max Rockatansky is pretty silent.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a silent protagonist, but
speaks, but never really more than just plot stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so mostly it comes up in video games as far as I.
So before we get into it, though, why don't you explain what the silent protagonist is?
It's essentially a trope.
Right.
It's a trope, a writing trope. Basically, you have your Master Chief, you have your Link from Zelda, which is the biggest one that
Master
people
Chief
think about.
talks sometimes, but
does he?
Yeah,
most of the time. I don't even. I've not. I played Halo 1 and 2. I think that's it. He might have talked. I don't remember. You have your Samus. I don't think she speaks. Does she?
Not that I know of.
Yeah. You have your Gordon Freeman from Half-Life. That's a really big one. Who else you got? Who?
Chell.
Oh yeah, Chell. I think Valve likes their silent
protagonists.
Yeah. So it's a thing that happens. There are more. There are definitely more I can't think of right now.
Nathan Drake.
Right. Yeah.
He
I remember
never has much to say.
He never said anything, and definitely wasn't constantly talking and making quips.
Well, his life is in danger.
Well, he's in danger of being shot and set on fire at the same time and falling off a cliff. But yeah, silent protagonist, it's basically a writing trope in which the main character that you play as does not actually speak.
Right.
And I want to distinguish that just because they don't have like voiceover dialogue doesn't mean they are silent. Like you can still just have like voice options.
Right.
And they're not a silent protagonist because you are choosing what they're saying. You're just not hearing them saying it.
Right.
So, like, Link is a true silent protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even get the choice for him to say things. People just talk at him. And so we want to talk about if that's an effective... I don't know exactly how are we coming at this.
Well, do we like its use or not?
Is this yeah, okay, sure.
So, because Fox and I, like, briefly brought this up with each other, and... he pretty immediately and solidly was like, "Nope."
I'm fairly pretty much all the way on. No, I don't think a silent protagonist is a good idea.
And I think absolutely yes. Not in every situation. Obviously,
Sure.
there are times that you should not use it, but
Absolutely.
For the most part, if you put it in the right context, it works wonderfully, exactly as it should.
I have to agree. I say that as well. We played the Silent Man. I think that's what it's called. Quiet Man. Quiet Man at E3, and it's about the main character you play as is deaf and mute, I think, because of it.
Right.
And that makes sense. That's a obvious place to be a silent. He uses sign language sometimes, but he doesn't speak. And
I actually think that's a poor usage of it.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I think at least there's a
it.
motivation. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It's not just he doesn't talk. I'm going to ask you. Usually I'm the first one that talks.
All right, go ahead.
I'm going to ask you, why do you think using a silent protagonist is a good idea?
To me, a silent protagonist is very successfully used and should be used when the world that you're in is more important than the character you're developing. So here is absolutely my key example is going to be here. Tell me about Mario. Describe him as a person to me.
He's a plumber.
What evidence do you have of that?
He jumps in and out of pipes.
Yes, we call him a plumber because
that's what
Nintendo
kind of
said
him.
that at some point, but we never know that. So
he's a guy who saves princesses.
We know nothing about him. But how fun was Odyssey? Odyssey was fantastic.
It was really fun.
If they tried to shove in some
he says it's a me Mario, and
he's not silent
all the time.
Woohoo! Woohoo!
That's all he says.
But it's because the worlds that he's in have so much character already and have so much going on that if you tried to grow some guy in the middle of this and Mario, we're going to make you a better person while you're chasing a dino turtle going through different worlds on a hat and again, things can be written well, but that's unnecessary for what we're doing here. The fun that we're having is in the world that he's in. Or if we go back to Link, Hyrule and the events of Hyrule are more important. If you were to describe who Link is, you would describe archetypes. He's brave, he's courageous, he's strong, he's resolute. But as a person, we know nothing about him other than he probably has kind of a gruff voice because he says a lot. And at that point, it's going to hurt your throat a little bit, But other than that, we don't know anything about Link because his character development isn't important to what's actually going on, and it's this beautiful world of Hyrule and the politics in it and the fantasy of it, and that's why I think Breath of the Wild was so good, and the character of Zelda in that, she was incredible in that.
Tell me, did she speak?
Yeah, she did. Yes, but she was not the protagonist.
Okay,
she was just somebody that you experienced with. So. Typically a protagonist, which, if we just look into the world, it's somebody, she's a protagonist, but she's not the main, she's not the main character, but the protagonist is the one who carries the story forward. And Zelda is not the one who carries the story forward. Link is the one who carries the story forward. Okay. Absolutely. Literally, if Link just stands there, nothing happens.
Well, okay. I think here we're confusing a little bit. gameplay with story.
Okay.
If Link is standing there, the game doesn't continue. But the story is about Zelda and her, really, in my opinion, the story of Breath of the Wild is about Zelda. In the way that Ferris Bueller's Day Off is about Cameron.
Right.
Where, yeah, Ferris Bueller's like your vessel in this world, and he's the one that motivates the story to happen. But the actual one you care about and the one that like, makes like the major like shift in who they are and has like an arc is Cameron Fry. Man, that's such a good movie.
It is.
Whereas in the same way, Breath of the Wild, yes, Link has a role. He is the person you play as and motivates the story happening and things happen because of him.
Okay.
But one of my favorite parts, I mean, okay, I can't say all of that game was my favorite part of that game.
It's a very good game.
Yes, but the story...
Let's check your mic again.
Are we having audio issues?
Again.
Hello, check.
Okay, you're good. Go.
All right.
But so you were talking about the story of Zelda, of Breath of the Wild.
Of that game is about Zelda, being able to defeat Ganon. The story, she is the one.
She is the one.
We're having issues here, by the way. She is the one who is the point. She is the one who Link is helping with everything he's doing.
Right.
He is bringing back, stopping the divine beasts from rampaging, bringing back the heroes to be able to help in this quest. But the whole thing is about Zelda. Like, we see history with her, like being scared of not being able to do her perform her duties as
she has the most
princess.
character development.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she's the one who you are, that you are her protector and her like guard, essentially. That is your role in the game. And so to me, that makes her very interesting more than Link. I wish Link had something to like. My major issue with what most people say, or like developers when they make a silent protagonist, they often say is so that we can project, that the player can project themselves
right
onto the character, and that is a bunch of bullcrap to me.
I mean, it's true, but I wasn't going to use that as an argument.
Sure,
I mean,
that's fair. That's something that you hear often.
Right.
Like that's Twilight.
Yeah, it's weak. It's weak reasoning. Is what poor writing.
It feels like a what do you call it? Just an out. Like, oh,
yeah.
We just didn't have the time or the effort.
A cop out
to get a voice actor in here or to write a story.
Right. And if your sole reason that you were creating a silent protagonist is so your reader can project herself onto it, that's poor writing.
Yeah. That just feels
lazy.
Just like a waste of time.
Yeah. But I would say that there are times that you can use a silent protagonist to enhance things. So, for example, if Link were to talk, if he were to have conversations with people, then he would need to have vocal inflections. There would need to be times that he gets a little bit louder, a little bit quieter. They're just that's the way voice acting works, right? But that would reflect attitude, and that attitude would reflect character, and that character would reflect who Link is. And at that point, Link becomes a person, and at that point, you got to wonder, what are his interactions with Zelda, and what are his interactions with everybody? And once you have all these interactions and things like that, now you're creating an entire other storyline that is taking away from what the story you're really telling is. Giving Link a personality in that situation wasn't necessary. He didn't need to have a character development. This story was not about Link and his character development. Like you said, this story is about Zelda and her character development, and you're just a vessel that has helped carrying this story. If you were to try and get Link to talk in the situation, it would take away from what was going on, because you would either have to A, change the way the story went to include some sort of friendship or familial or love interest between the two, or B, make it just feel kind of wooden and robotic because they have no chemistry. Like, no matter what you do, you take away from what was already given there. And you and I agree, the story and the game of Breath of the Wild were fantastic. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It was wonderful. We say it's one of the greatest games ever made. If you were to try and give Link a personality at that point, it would take away from the game.
And I think that's potentially not necessarily true. me, I think a bit of that is a cop out as well.
How could it have helped?
What if Link was there to like? If we're going to project ourselves, and I understand this is not your argument. Why the whole projecting thing? Am I?
There, now you're back again. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to try and edit this as much as I can, but if it just sounds weird,
I just need to sit the right way.
Yeah.
So if I understand your argument is not that we should have somebody to project ourselves onto,
Right.
But I do think that, and I've said this many times, and sometimes I feel like I'm just saying the same thing over and over again. But the idea of art is to find ourselves in a story,
Right.
and I have a harder time finding myself in a story if I'm supposed to be connecting with a character. You can't say that Link is just literally just there to be a tool for the player,
Right.
because he is a character. You cannot escape that. He is somebody in the story doing very important things, interacting with very important people, and I cannot connect with him as much as I can connect with somebody who speaks, because I speak. I am not a silent protagonist, and therefore I think it is much easier for me to agree, disagree, empathize with, vilify somebody who clearly has a personality and clearly has a vocalized motivation. Now, it's not necessary. Agreed, 100%. Breath of the Wild is great. I understood some of Link's motivation or just attitude during certain cutscenes. But most of the time, he just felt like a dude that was sitting there. Like he felt like he could have been replaced by anybody else. And I think that's a big problem.
And see, I don't think that is a big problem. The whole replaced by anybody else, sure, fine. I mean, it's Legend of Zelda, so obviously you couldn't. But in any other situation, yes, you could have put different people in his situation and would have felt the same, because his character growth was not the point of it. So let's. I mean, we talked about a lot about Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Let's flop over to Half-Life and Gordon
Sure.
Freeman. So Gordon Freeman is also a silent protagonist. You even have some conversations in that, people will talk.
People
at
talk
you.
at you. You don't say anything.
And there are moments in which you are definitely interacting with people, but the story has nothing to do with the character growth of Gordon Freeman. It has everything to do with this world that you have been thrown into, this terrifying place in which these things are crawling around now. And
Well, yeah, you're in your Black Mesa facility, and aliens or extra dimensional beings have shown up. But
right.
yes,
and
you
it's
as the player are
about
thrown
this
into.
situation where let's have a similar game style of game in Dead Space.
Okay.
Similar style of game. It's scary, alien, scary, creepy.
Yeah,
things
Isaac doesn't
crawling
speak,
around.
does he?
He does.
Oh, does he?
He does.
It's
yeah.
been a while since I played Dead Space.
And so he does, but there's a lot of character growth in Dead Space. The whole point of it isn't about the beacon and the world progressing. In fact, it's very little about the world progressing. It's about Isaac as a character dealing with the loss of his wife and dealing with his own personal internal trauma and dealing
That's
with
true.
a lot of
Okay, now
post-traumatic
I'm
distress
remembering now.
and things like that. And so the story of Dead Space is about Isaac, and it's set in this scary place. The story of Half-Life is about this world and what's going on and how this world is progressing and growing and changing. And Gordon Freeman's just the guy who's doing it. There doesn't need to be any character development in that, because the world is so rich. And in the same way with Legend of Zelda, the world is so rich. The world of Hyrule is so rich that you don't need to have Link have a big, long character arc. There's so much going on. You can identify with so many people, and that's why they did a lot of good, solid character tropes in this. You have your strong, confident person in the Gerudo woman. I can't remember her name.
Yep.
You have the,
I can't remember any of their names.
laid back, strong guy who is, the protector, and in your Goron dude.
Yep.
You have your cocky, self-assured in your flying guy, and you
Whatever
want
his
to
name
punch
was.
him. Yeah. And then you have your innocent and pure and loving and nurturing person in the Zora girl. And you
Right.
have all these tropes in these, and through all of them, they don't help Link grow. That's not the point. all four of them help Zelda grow, and that's the point. And we are watching Zelda grow. And you've already said that Zelda is the main character per se
as far as
Breath of the Wild
importance goes.
Right. Adding character to Link would not make that any better or worse. In fact, I say it would make that worse. Or making you play as Zelda. Making you play as Zelda would all of a sudden...
I freaking love that.
It would be really cool. Like a DLC or something like that would be really cool.
Sure.
But I feel like at that point, you would have the option to control Zelda in a way or do things with Zelda that might be out of her character. So, maybe you're going to go and murder all the cuckoos just because it's funsies. Because that's what a player does.
Are you saying
sometimes.
That's in Link's character?
I don't know. Maybe it is. It could be if you want it to be, because Link doesn't have a character. That's my point.
See,
if
that is my issue. I don't like blank slates because I'm not a blank slate. I like Geralt. I like a well-defined character that I get to become. I think this is my one of the best examples of a well-defined character with choices that I care about. In Witcher 3, basically you get to choose between it's binary like this sometimes, or none. You can choose none, but between Yennefer and Triss as your love interest forever. Basically,
right.
You can choose to deny both. You can choose to. I think there's an option to basically romance both of them. I've never done that because
Have
to
you
me,
ever heard the term sister wives?
that sounds the worst Geralt
I sound exactly like him.
I loved being him and making that choice because I got to choose whether or not whether or not Geralt was making a decision. I got to justify what he was doing for real reasons. I could choose to be with Yennefer because she's exciting and we have this deep, long connection that we've been through a lot together, and she makes me want to be this heroic, bombastic, I'm going to go, fight these monsters. Or I can be with Triss, who actually just reminds me of home and makes me want to settle down and live a peaceful life after having spent so many years fighting and spilling blood to survive. Or I can choose both and strike out on my own and, choose to... I like the idea of still getting to choose what this person is, but I get to see who they are and I get to justify what they've done. If I'm Link, I just kill a bunch of cuckoos for no reason because it's a game thing. I think the disconnect here, you started talking about Mario, is not whether the world is more important or the character is more important. It's how is whether the game is more important or the story is more important. In Mario Odyssey, the game is what I came to it for. Mm-hmm. I wanted to play a Mario game, a really good one, because I knew that they're really good at making those big flagship Mario titles like Galaxy or 64.
Right.
I was really excited to play another one of those. I wasn't looking forward to being Mario, this dark past, plumber man who wants to spend his life with Princess Peach. I didn't care about that. And what I really loved about Breath of the Wild, I'm going to harp on this because Breath of the Wild is a really good example of this, I think, is that it actually made me care more. And I think it would have been a great time for them to do less of the blank slate and more of the, wait, you care now. Because that's never happened before. I've never really cared about Zelda before, the character Zelda. I knew it was, there's a bad guy, an evil bad guy named Ganon, and I have to be a good guy and save the princess and fight him. And now, oh wait, Zelda actually has feelings. Beyond just, I don't want to die. She's worried about whether or not she's going to fulfill her duties as princess. She's this nerd who's really interested in plants and whether or not they have properties. You see moments in her life that's not related to anything in the story. It's just you get to learn about her. And I really would have loved if they took another step and did that with Link as well. And so that's where I see the downfall is. I understand that there are times when it doesn't matter. I think it should matter, though.
Let's go back to The Witcher. When you had to make a choice between Yennefer and Triss, did you choose what you thought Geralt would want? did you choose what you thought Geralt's character best fit with, or did you choose who Fox liked best?
Personally, I chose Triss because I like Triss more as a character and what she represents to Geralt. Now, if you want to stay true to the books, it's much more likely that he would choose Yennefer just because they have this deep connection. But what was important to me beyond what was like, is it my choice or the book canon choice, was both of them made sense. And both of them, and I got agency and got to project myself and my personal choice onto a very well-defined character who's been around for decades, and it still made perfect sense and perfect logical sense for that character. We were both right. And I think that was perfectly done, and I feel like more games should take advantage of that because it can be done.
And so you got to make that choice because of Geralt's impressions on you and how you felt he was and
Yes.
what you wanted Geralt to do at that point. And I understand that's why you like to play the game. Some
Right.
people don't want to do that, though.
Okay.
Some people play Grand Theft Auto and never progress through the story because they want to run around and cause chaos.
Sure.
And that's the way they want things to go. But that also means that they can... Maybe they still want a pretty decent story. Maybe they want to see some stuff happen. Like...
Okay.
Having a silent protagonist leaves this middle ground of, if I am Geralt and I choose to run into a town and start murdering everybody, and then...
Well, there are big consequences of that in Witcher 3.
and then after that, I try and tell myself, but Geralt's a good person. I removed myself from that because I've jokingly say, yeah, he's a good person. Like that time I went into a town and murdered everybody.
That was your choice.
So,
and it wouldn't make sense for him to
and
do
this is
that.
exactly my point. Yes. And so let's take all the Elder Scrolls, for example, another silent protagonist game.
Sure.
The fact that you can kill somebody, the police run up to you, and then you can charm them. So in Oblivion specifically, you could put on the gray cowl of the Nocturnal and murder somebody, and police would run up to you, or guards would run up to you, and they'd be like, "Stop right there and murder her, or it's the Gray Fox." Oh. And then you'd take off the mask, and they'd stop, and they'd be like, "What are you
Wait
doing
a minute,
here?"
you look suspicious.
Yeah, and they would hate you. They'd be
Well, that's
really,
just
really mad at
stupid.
you after that. And so this is literally how I pumped my charm in that game. Is I would put on the gray cowl. They would come after me. I'd take it off. They'd come talk to me, and they would hate me. They don't know why, but they hate me. And then I would just work on charming them all the way back up to 100.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put the cowl back on and take it back off, and they'd come back and they'd hate me. And like at that point, I get to do something. I get to make this character do what I want them to do, because you know what? It doesn't make me feel like it's out of character for this person. It doesn't make me feel like that's not what Dragonborn would do, to talk about Skyrim. You know, it's not. But if I were to try and do something like that in The Witcher 3, you could tell yourself, I mean, this isn't what Geralt would do, but it's funny. Like, oh, this isn't something that Geralt would do, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Right, and I think that's a great thing. To be able to say this isn't what he would do, but I'm having fun playing the game right now. And I think that there's if you can just choose not to be the Dragonborn in Skyrim.
Right.
Sure, they're going to do some of the story things right at the beginning. Probably going to happen, like you're going to hear the call from the Greybeards on High Hrothgar, but you can just choose not to do
And
that.
they're going to be like, hey, kill a dragon.
And at that point, you are not the Dragonborn. You get to do whatever you want. You can just literally like rob people or murder towns if you want to. Link is a specific person in that world. You don't get the choice of deciding whether or not he is the hero of time and the protector of innocent and destroyer of Ganon or whatever. And so, yeah, I think since it's already been determined who you are, I think they should take it further, make him a person, and that way you get to say, oh, that's not what he would do, but I'm going to go murder all these chickens. Like, I love the idea of just doing whatever you want to do because it's not really what he would do. I love when a character is so well defined that you can choose, you can say, that's not what he would do.
See, on the other hand, I'm saying that at that point you can say the Link I'm playing, the story I've made for him is that He's going to do what needs to be done to get things in. He's the lawful neutral Link. And that means that, you know what? He's going to rob some folk. He's going to go in their house and he's going to break their jars and he's going to take their money. And because you know what?
People are fine with that.
That's
okay?
what he's going to turn around.
He's the hero of time.
No, it's because a dude with a sword came into their house and started rummaging through things. And they're like, shh, pretend like he's not here and we'll live.
That's just an RPG trope to me. I've been robbing so many people in Dragon Quest and they don't care at all.
I saw a comic where Zelda's like, Link, you keep shattering people's pottery to find stuff inside of it. And he's like, well, I got to get the coins inside. And she just reaches into the jar and pulls it out. And he's like, sorcery!
What are you doing?
But maybe you can say, you know what? I, as Link, am lawful good, and I'm always going to be the good guy, and I'm always going to do... And you can choose to not rob people. You can choose to do things a little bit differently. Like, you can impart some sort of character on Link however you want. They don't really define his character because his character has no meaning to the story. You can be neutral good Link that's just going to do whatever it takes.
You have to be good, though, because if you just want to be evil Link, then you would never fight Ganon.
Yes,
and you would never help. They are railroading you into a certain type of person.
He represents an archetype. Yes, he's a hero at the end of the day.
But he also has a specific role. He's not just like some guy who's helping out this lady. He's like an actual guard. Like he's part of the royal retinue. Like he knows all these characters already. Like he has a history and a past, and therefore choosing to do something completely different really doesn't make any sense. And so I wish they gave him more opportunity to show you who he is, or like to talk about like his feelings towards something. There is a way you can do it. You can do a middle ground. It's a thing.
So here's the problem with, and this is kind of the opposite, but kind of the same. So I'm going to go back to The Quiet Man.
Okay.
The Quiet Man has a kind of silent protagonist, but they give him character. They give him a lot. They attempt to give him a lot of character.
Not a lot. He's pretty terrible.
His character is a 2002 grunge band lead singer where he just broods 24/7, like, and that with his hair in front of his
Leon Kennedy haircut.
Exactly. No. That's exactly what
it is. It's Leon Kennedy's haircut. Maybe it is Leon Kennedy.
What happened to his voice? Matthew Mercer refused to go and voice him.
Yeah, this game looks trash. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Side note, I'm really excited they got a younger guy to do Leon Kennedy in Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be younger Leon Kennedy.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. Anyway, I'm so excited for that game.
Yeah.
But in The Quiet Man, it hurts that they're trying to give this person character. We have a lot of story about him. We see background flashbacks. We see him talking to people that he grew up with. We see all kinds of things, but it just doesn't fit with this storyline. Like, what the crap is happening?
It had a lot of problems.
That
game had a lot of
problems.
gameplay, story writing, character development. It had all the problems.
And it just, the whole thing felt clunky and broken. We agreed it would have been better if they gave him a voice. Yeah, if they, or maybe not a literal voice, but like if you could get subtitles for what he's saying,
to be able to
saying back to him,
to understand what's happening at the very least,
right? To understand what's happening.
However you want to do that.
And I feel like in a situation like that, it's not. It would have been better if there was a silent protagonist. It would have been better if he had a voice. But it's the same in which there are times in story that adding a voice would only hurt things, just like there are times in story when taking that voice away would hurt things. So in Gordon Freeman's example, if we're trying to grow this person and his character, there will be times in which we're sitting there, we're like, the world is ending. Why are we having this like sit down conversation? Like, okay, you're trying to give me this really nice character growth moment, but outside that door, people are dying. Like, that's what I care about right now.
Okay, you're talking about bad writing.
And it is, but
you've seen Mad Max Fury Road.
Yes.
That movie is 90% car chase.
Okay.
There are some brief moments where it takes a break because it makes sense in the story they can do that. But you still get significant character development even when things are... And it's because it's very good writing. Not because he talks. It's because the writing is so good that when he's talking, you learn about who he is, even when it's not like a moment for him to tell me about his sad backstory.
So, okay, exactly. And I'm glad you said that because it made me think of a good metaphor to use for this.
Okay.
But there are times in which trying to add character development will handcuff your writers into what they want to write about the world. Mad Max had some character development, and he said some things.
A lot of it.
But what was more important was the world's development and Furiosa's development and all of that stuff in it. And the pregnant women, woman and the other women, their
slaves.
development was the more important part of that story. And with all of this, Mad Max was fine. They could have written a lot more for him if they wanted to, but they knew, you know what, this is going to be fine. He does not talk as much as anybody else in this movie. That's fine. He's good the way it is. There are times that trying to write a main character, is actually going to handcuff. So trying to write a big, long personal storyline for Link could handcuff you on what story you want to tell about Hyrule and Zelda, because you need to add more to it. Trying to write a storyline about Mario could handcuff you on whatever you want to do. So the metaphor I want to use is, it's like saying, I really, really, really want to bake a cake. A delicious cake that's going to be really good.
Okay.
And somebody else says, yeah. And you know what else is awesome? Hamburgers.
Agreed.
And then you're like, yeah, but I'm not going to put beef in my cake. I'm like, yeah, but hamburgers are delicious. You agree that, right? Like, when done well, hamburgers are really, really good. Yes, but right now, me trying to put beef in my cake would be detrimental. Like, I could come up with something, or maybe I could make like a sweetmeat or something like that. Like, maybe I could do I could combine these in some way, but with what I have planned, this is going to be a detriment to what I have planned. And I think that when a silent protagonist is used, it's because a writer wants to step in and say, I want to tell this beautiful story about this world and about these other characters, but I don't want to give control of these characters to somebody else. I want these characters to do exactly what they're supposed to do in the story, and I want the player just to be able to experience that. And so let's create this silent protagonist that has helped kind of carrying these things on, and he'll interact, or she'll do some stuff like Chell. In Chell, the story, again, is not about you. The story is mostly about GLaDOS and the hilarity and all that. And
you learn a lot more about you in the second one.
About you?
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember that. I know you learn more about the history of Aperture.
Yeah, and you learn about you.
You know more
it
about
is
GLaDOS.
Heavily implied you learn about more about Chell and her relationship to the other characters.
I don't remember that. But
Absolutely.
either way, the point of that is, let's tell this great story about GLaDOS and about Cave Johnson and about his secretary that becomes GLaDOS and all this other stuff. And let's tell this story. And I mean, I want to tell that story, and I don't want people to have any control over that. I just want to tell that story. Let's just put Chell in there and let her experience this. It's a way to make a player experience this story without it just being a walking simulator. It's a way for them to experience something that they don't have any control over, while not having to write some extra stuff for some good character growth, or to be able to justify the character being in control of this person or whatever else. It's the way that you can have Breath of the Wild, but you can't control what Zelda is doing or anybody else is doing. Like, Zelda is the type of character that if she feels if something needs to get done, she will immediately go do that. We can agree on that. She cares enough about people that she will go and take after something. But if we controlled Zelda, there could be a moment in game when they're like, oh, I need to go do this thing. And you're like, yeah, cool, but first I'm going to go like catch all
that's true
the bugs
for
or whatever.
All open world games.
And I feel like that. So I'm playing Spider-Man right now. I feel like that sometimes. I, as a player, there will be a time when they're like, hey, Spider-Man, this is going on over here. We need your help. And then they let me swing over there. And I consciously know that nothing is going to change in game if I go and I do a bunch of side missions. It's not going to impact anything if I go and I take some pictures. But in my brain, I'm like, yeah, but that's not what Peter Parker would do. He wouldn't, like, Mary Jane wouldn't say, Peter, I need you. And he's like, cool, but I need to like get this sweet selfie at the Empire State Building first. Like, I'm not going to do that. And so there are a lot of times that I don't do side missions because I am in character as Peter. I am role-playing him.
Because you know who Peter is, because
Exactly.
he talks, because he's revealed to you what his motivations are.
But with Link as a silent protagonist, I don't have that. Link can be who I want him to be. And so it can be like, oh, this needs to get done. But you know what? Link really loves bomb chew bowling. And he's going to take a bomb chew bowling break. And you can giggle and laugh about that, but it makes perfect sense with his character because he doesn't have
It really doesn't, though. It really
doesn't. Have a character.
No, it really doesn't. Even in Ocarina of Time, you as a young child see the princess get kidnapped by Ganondorf and taken away, and you got to save her. And then you choose to go bomb chew bowling. Like, it shows you being concerned about something and wanting to save the day, and then you choose to do that. There is a disconnect, I think, that we have to make between, like, with Spider-Man, there's a disconnect that a player can very easily make, like saying, I'm pausing the story and the character and doing this other thing right now. That's just a thing in video games.
And I agree. And what I'm saying is I think it's much easier with the silent protagonist.
Right. I think it's going to happen either way. And so why not create a great, personable, like in Spider-Man, personable with a voice, know what he's doing, has motivations, has a dream that he wants to date Mary Jane, like again, be back together with her. But if you're going to like in a game like that, whether or not the character is important or like whether or not the character is silent or not, you're going to have to make that pause where you're saying, you know what, instead I'm going to go bomb chew bowling because that's just a fun game I want to play. So if you're going to have to do that, then why not make the character of Link also really awesome and interesting and with a great voice, because you're going to be doing it either way. The story would not suffer in any amount because we're going to have to make that pause. This is an open world specific thing. If we're on rails, then I think having a silent protagonist is just a stupid thing.
I agree. I don't think that on rails.
This whole idea of a silent protagonist is actually like, I think it started mainly because of probably technology limitations.
Right.
It's just we don't have space on a cartridge for the SNES to put or on the NES to put a voice. We can't do that. How do we do that? And now I think it's what was the other reason?
I mean, they can have text.
Well, sure. I mean, it's not a person. Text. That's true. But they still had characters that didn't speak, i.e. Link.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were limitations to technology. I just think, why not? You can always, I said before, I think anything can be great.
I think you said what's going to be your final argument. I'm telling you to give your final argument right now. So we're running out of time. You think silent protagonists go away. Why?
I don't think silent protagonists go away. I understand the idea of silence. I think it can be a great thing. When something happens in a game and you get to choose what to say and you can choose not to say something, that can speak volumes, ironically. But I think that character story writing is about character. And if you're going to be playing Zelda and playing as Link for 100 years, I want to see more about or 100 years, 100 hours. Maybe 100 years. There's a lot of stuff to do in that game. But for 100 hours or 200 hours, and just take 20 extra minutes to tell me who he is through the cutscenes. Those cutscenes were my minuscule part of the game.
That would be 20 extra minutes of your time. That would be hundreds of hours of their time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make a better game.
I'm stepping on your final arguments that are wrong. But
Look,
go ahead.
Here's my argument. A better game is one with better characters and a silent protagonist. To me, does not do a lot of times the things a character needs to be good.
Okay. My final argument only needs to be you're wrong. But
I didn't look at it that way.
You're right.
You got me. Well, thanks for listening.
No, my final argument, I totally understand what you're saying, that if you have this opportunity to grow a character, why not take that?
Yeah.
Why not give us more story? My final argument is that there are times in which having a kind of an empty archetyped character allows us as a player to better experience the story that the writers want to tell.
Yeah.
And justify the actions that we're taking as a player without removing us from the story.
Sure. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, it lets us experience this in a way that we couldn't otherwise experience with a voiced protagonist.
Yeah.
And I think there are ways that people do it wrong, and there are ways that it's done really, really well,
Agreed.
i.e. Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it comes down to a time when the story around you is more important than a character, like you as a protagonist character growth.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
well, guys, let us know what you think about silent protagonists. Let us know what you think about the games we've been talking about. We went over a lot. So let us know what you think. Yeah. We like you.
Des is wrong.
Yeah.
Boom, you heard it.
Saved games, save lives.
Bye.